Alrighty trainers, taking adventures here. So, in a few hours time, Deoxys will finally make its way out of EX raids and into Tier 5 raids in Pokemon Go. Deoxys is a pretty cool Pokemon. It has 4 different forms, and in the main series games, it is capable of changing forms, well, at least in auras when they've implemented the Meteorite in Professor Cosmo's house. Deoxys was a mythical Pokemon back in the days of Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Nowadays, in Gen 6, it is highly debated whether Deoxys still retains its mythical Pokemon status due to it being really accessible in the post-game of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Everyone would have a Deoxys if they played the Generation 6 Hoenn games, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But anyway, we're here to discuss how to counter Deoxys in Pokemon Go, how you might want to prepare for it when it drops in Tier 5 raids, as well as Deoxys' potential in Pokemon Go as well, which will be a whole separate video on its own. It will be out shortly after this one goes live, so stay tuned for that. In this video, I'll be talking about how to counter Deoxys and how you want to best prepare for Deoxys raids in Pokemon Go when it drops in a few moments time. So the first thing you might want to be aware of is Deoxys' 4 forms. Now Deoxys exists in its regular form when you first receive it in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. When you change its forms, it can convert into one of 3 different forms: its attack, defense, and speed forms. Each of these forms have different base stat distributions. The attack form, like its name suggests, is more offensively based, is a glass cannon, and generally very hard hitting. The defense form is a bit more tanky and can outlast the attack, and the speed form and does really consistent damage overall. Not very good for DPS, but it can be used if you prefer the TDO. Now the speed form is kind of in an awkward position here since the speed stat is basically non-existent in Pokemon Go. But Pokemon Go wise, Deoxys speed has the most balanced base stats of the lot here. It has pretty respectable base stats, almost on par with the Gyarados. The speed form is kind of like the nice neutral ground between all 3 forms, like the middleman between the 4 forms, although its name might not suggest that it is. When you compare all 3 of these forms to the regular Deoxys, you can see that the regular Deoxys is still very offensive. It's not as glassy as the attack form, less tanky than the defense form. Forms movesets, because their movesets are very different as well. Here you can see that normal form Deoxys has Zen Headbutt and Charge Beam as fast moves, and Hyper Beam, Thunderbolt, and Psycho Boost as charge moves. It's pretty interesting to note that Deoxys' signature move, Psycho Boost, gives it very low DPS, the lowest of its move pool in fact. Even though Psycho Boost is supposed to be a very powerful psychic type move, I guess Niantic decided to give it a very huge nerf here and give it a very large fall from grace, contrary to what it is in the main series game. So I'm just hoping that Niantic does buff Psycho Boost when Deoxys hits Tier 5 raids in Pokemon Go. Otherwise, Deoxys is going to be pretty shunted off to the side in favor of Mewtwo, Alakazam, and other psychic type attackers. Deoxys' attack here has Zen Headbutt and Poison Jab as its fast moves, and Zap Cannon, Dark Pulse, and Psycho Boost as charge moves. Like I said, Psycho Boost has taken a really huge fall from grace here, giving even Deoxys' attack a really low DPS. Dark Pulse is a pretty interesting coverage option because Deoxys is weak to ghost type attacks, and Dark Pulse kind of helps cover for that. But with those crappy defenses, you're not going to do much even with the coverage. So Deoxys' attack, even though it may hit hard, it might not be able to outlast your opponent to do really consistent damage. Deoxys' defense form gets Counter and then Headbutt as fast moves, and Thunderbolt, Rock Slide, and Psycho Boost as charge moves. Counter is pretty interesting because it does help check dark types that plague Deoxys, being a psychic type, and Deoxys' defense being the more tanky form is pretty good as a wall in general and to sponge at soaking up all your opponent's damage. Definitely worthwhile in my opinion, and it's not just my opinion, it made its successes at the Pokemon Go World Invitational at VGC 2019 and has basically spoken for itself in that department. Now for Deoxys speed here, it does get a really huge variety of moves. Again, Psycho Boost has taken a very huge nerf here, but the one thing is most of Deoxys speed's moves are either not really great or not even stab, so Deoxys speed really deserves a huge buff here if Niantic wants Deoxys speed to be viable in battle. Of course, more details to come in the metagame analysis video, which will be going live after this video, so be on the lookout for that one if you want more details on how to use Deoxys in PvP as well as in battles. Alrighty folks, enough chit chat here, now let's dive into the meat of today's video, which is how to defeat Deoxys in Tier 5 raids in Pokemon Go. All 4 forms of Deoxys being pure psychic types means that all 4 forms are weak to bug, dark, and ghost type attacks. Now in terms of dark type counters, of course we have the OG, the trusty, the reliable Tyranitar. Tyranitar's got the bulk, the offenses, the defenses, the DPS, the moveset, you name it. You know the drill at this point. Tyranitar has a great pairing of super effective moves here in Bite and Crunch. Amazing DPS on Deoxys here. Now if you don't have a Tyranitar, you can opt for Weavile or Houndoom as alternatives. Weavile, especially with Foul Play, does really good DPS on Deoxys attack. But unfortunately though, you have to be careful when sending Weavile and Houndoom on Deoxys defense, which I imagine is the one that most of us are going to be raiding because of its PvP as well as World Championship usage, because both of them will take super effective damage from Deoxys defense's counter as well as Rock Slide. Weavile especially being 4 times weak to counter. Now if you want some ghost type attackers though, I would recommend Gengar with Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, or Lick Shadow Ball, just because it hits like a freaking truck and does really amazing DPS. It tops the charts in terms of the counters I have listed here, so if you have a Gengar with Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, or Lick Shadow Ball, definitely power it up, invest in it, and use it to raid a Deoxys. Now Gengar is a glass cannon and takes super effective from psychic type moves, being part poison itself, so Gengar has both its really amazing benefits and its own drawbacks as well. If you want a bit more bulk behind your ghost type attacks, you should definitely try a Giratina Origin form. With Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, it hits like a truck just like Gengar. It even does more DPS than a Lick Shadow Ball Gengar, so you can definitely use Giratina Origin as a bulky stand-in for Gengar. Although it's not a ghost type, Mewtwo gets a very honorable mention here because it does get access to Shadow Ball if you battled it in EX raids. So if you have an EX raid Mewtwo with Shadow Ball, now is the time to bring it out and use it in battle. You might as well just flex it on everyone, not that you have to, but it's a pretty cool collectible and pretty good generalist as well. Now Bnet gets a special shout out here because it is the most accessible Pokemon at present that gets access to Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball, and it also has really good DPS as well, on par with Giratina Origin. Giratina Origin is still a tad bit bulkier, so you might want to prioritize using Giratina Origin just so it is able to tank more of Deoxys' hits and deal more damage in the long run. Now bug types in the current metagame have the short end of the stick because they don't deal very much DPS here, but fortunately for Pinsir and Scizor though, they do have really good movesets and are still pretty viable when raiding a Deoxys here. Just be careful when sending in your Pinsers on defense from Deoxys, because Pinsir does take super effective from Deoxys' Rock Slide being bug type, so yeah, just use your Pinsers with caution here. Of course, the 4 forms of Deoxys having different defense stats means that all of them need different amounts of people to effectively beat them in Pokemon Go. For the normal and attack form Deoxys, you only need 2 people at level 30 or higher to beat it, because both of those forms are very glassy and have very low defense stats, so you don't need a lot of people. As for the defense form, it has the highest base defense of the lot, so it needs about 3 to 5 people at level 30 or higher. For the speed form though, it is best you bring about 2 to 4 people above level 30. Of course, if you need more firepower or you don't have the right counters, or if your counters are not powered up sufficiently, do bring more people, more manpower, more firepower if need be. If you have enough raiders in your raid group or in the raid lobby, it's totally fine if you stick with your current members, and it's also totally fine if you want to invite more people. Now Deoxys being psychic type will be weather boosted in windy weather here, so if you're lucky enough to live in an area with windy weather, definitely try hunting in windy weather first and foremost, and definitely try bringing the right amount of people you need for your raid. Now if you're looking for the 100% CPs of all 4 forms of Deoxys, I've listed them up on screen right here. 1570 for normal form Deoxys, 1282 for attack form Deoxys, 1130 for defense form Deoxys, and 1431 for speed form Deoxys in non-weather boosted conditions, which is any other weather apart from windy weather. In windy weather, aka weather boosted conditions, it is 1963 for normal form Deoxys, 1603 for attack form Deoxys, 1412 for defense form Deoxys, and 1789 for speed form Deoxys. Now of course that leaves us with Deoxys' attacking potential as well as how it fares in battle, but that will be a separate video all of its own, which I will be making right now. As soon as this video goes live, that video will be on its way, so be on the lookout, stay tuned, and hopefully I will be able to see you in that video. And yeah, I'm going to be signing off right now. This has been Taken Adventures. I'm going to be heading right out. Peace out.